Hello everyone. Today I have the privilege to be here with my mentor, Dr. Brian Clement. We are here at Hippocrates Health Institute, the best place in the world when I have the best experience in my life. And Brian is a very wise man because he influenced the life of hundreds and thousands of people, including mine, and I am very grateful for this, Brian. Brian, thank you for being here. And my first question for you is, who are you and what is your mission in this life?
Well, I'm like everyone out there. I'm searching to be a person who has more to give, more to learn, for happiness, as all of us want. And my good fortune led me more than half a century ago in this direction. And little did I know at that point that it would bring me to a place where I could fulfill all of those dreams. And many people say the work I do. This is not the work I do. This is the love I share with people. So I'm like all of you. I'm like every man, woman, and child on the planet. And the good grace of God has led me to be in a position where I can give light in the darkness, show people the way out of their pain, out of their suffering, out of their sorrow, out of the fear that people have today. And the organization I have directed for over 40 years has created the field of progressive healthcare. And for that reason, it's our obligation and our mission statement to liberate humans and the planet Earth. So in a nutshell, that's who I am.
Brian, when I first saw you, I saw for the first time how self-respect looked like and self-love looked like. I never seen a person who respects himself like you respect yourself. And I want to ask you, what is self-respect and what is love for
well, I mean,
self-love?
you know, as a young person, like most, I was lost, trying to find myself in a world that, thank God, I had loving and supportive parents, but they were lost, like most people. They thought that their job was to teach me to make a living, to make money. And if you had money, everything was fine, everything was secure. And I always bucked the system and could have ended up like most people, lost, confused, and poor. But the truth of the matter was, the choice that I made was a choice to fulfill my life with what turned me on, which I felt had integrity. And due to that, not to sound new age, but to sound more like physics, it brought me everything else I wanted and needed at that point. So until you start to feel good about what you do, you don't feel good about who you are. And so when I put my head on the pillow at night, I always know that I've done my best to contribute the most I can and to also fulfill. It's not all about self-sacrifice. You know, this was unfortunately comes from religious insanity, where you have to sacrifice yourself and you give everything away. It's inversely the opposite. If you don't find what fills your life, you're never going to be good at it. If you don't find what turns you on, you're never going to be happy. And if you're not good at what you do and you're not happy, you're not going to be productive. And so, frankly, I do all of this first for myself. And the good news is, the side effect, it helps other people. That's the truth of the matter.
Yes, Brian. Yeah. What will you say to a person who say he doesn't have time for his health?
Well, I say you wait long enough, you're going to get sick, and then you're going to change your attitude completely. I'm sitting here, as you know, every day with people who have been very, very economically successful and even famous people. And when they get sick, the entire attitude changes. They realize that the only thing in life that matters is your health. And your health is not only biological. It's not, I don't have a disease, so I'm healthy. Are you thriving? Are you flourishing? Whatever you dream, are you capable of achieving? And I was on a radio show about 45 years ago with a man that's become my friend since, and he asked me, I was using the rhetoric at that point, complete health, complete health, complete health. And I never really thought as a young man what that meant. And at the end of the show, an hour show, he said, what is complete health? And I was shocked because I never thought it out. And thank God my heart opened and I said something I've been able to carry ever since. Whatever you dream at any point in your life, if I dream to climb a mountain at 100, I can do it. If I dream at 18 years old to be very successful at what I do, I can do it. That is what we're talking about. That's where you've got to get, as far as I'm concerned. You should never waste a second of your life dreaming dreams that you cannot achieve. And you should never be ill so that you cannot achieve your dreams psychologically and biologically. So you've got to, if you think life is a process of what your choices are, you've got to be capable and ready to achieve those choices. And if not, whose fault is that? So your health is number one.
Yes.
Yes.
It's true that our body is the best doctor on the planet Earth.
Oh yeah. The biggest concern that I have is even the natural doctors intervene, that somehow we think that the universe and that your body and God has made a mistake somehow. That we, by the way, know better. The doctor knows better. The scientist knows better. This is absurdity. Not to say there's not a place for science and medicine, there is, but the true essence of what a physician is a teacher. The word doctor comes from the Greek derivative of teacher. And we should sit back and allow the body to go through this miraculous process of healing that it does most of the time. Now, sometimes can it use help? Sure, we give it help here. We may use energy medicine, we may use IVs, we may use nutritional supplements. But the fact of the matter is, it's the body that's healing. It's not the nutritional supplement or the Hippocrates diet or the lifestyle or the attitudinal change that you have. It's we're encouraging the body, we're supporting the body, but the body does the magic, and it always does the magic.
Yes. Brian, what will you say to a sick person, helpless person, that think that the responsibility for his health is in the hand of the doctor?
Well, I think you have to rethink that. Sadly, every culture in the world today has been convinced that you don't know about yourself. You don't know about your own healing. You don't know how to take care. This is only a new phenomena. If we go back to my grandmother's generation, which isn't that long ago, that was 2 generations ago, she was the doctor in the house. And very rarely did you call a doctor or go to a hospital. And today, people have thrown their hands up. They're driving their cars at 200 kilometers an hour. And when they crash, they're shocked. And they run to the hospital or they run to the physician. And the truth is that we have to take responsibility. And if we don't take responsibility for what we consume, if we exercise or not, if we're negative or positive, then we should expect we're going to get sick. And nobody else is going to be able to heal you. Just think logically. You've never met the woman. You've never met the man. I'm sure they're mostly very nice people, the doctor. They want to help you. But what do they know about you? You rush in many times in an emergency. You're saying, please save me, please save me. They don't know your history. And they're not trained with lifestyle, the thing that really will heal you. And so what do? They're trained to administer a drug. And sometimes the drug's necessary. But rarely is the drug employed correctly. Rarely is it the answer. It's a temporary answer, but ultimately it's your choices, your lifestyle choices, your own self-responsibility that heals you. My whole life, I've been watching people take responsibility and heal major diseases. Not minor, I'm not talking about a wound, I'm talking about advanced cancers. I'm talking about multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's disease. People who have had 10 heart attacks basically never have one in their life again and they live to 100. This is what it's about. And so for you to think a doctor is going to heal you, shame on you. That you have no respect and no gratitude for the life you've been given, and you should expect to get sick and expect that the doctor can never really ultimately heal you.
Yes. Brian, I know that you have a short lecture about nutrition that anyone can understand. You can tell us what we need to know about nutrition.
Okay. Well, there's 4 factors. Number 1, every creature on earth except humans, every species on earth except humans, eat 100% raw diet. Number 2, we are plant-based eaters. Now, there may be some naysayers out there and some pseudoscientists, because they're not real scientists, pseudoscientists that are reading from the archives of nonsense, as I call it, that are going to tell you that our bodies require meat. Well, that's absolutely not true. I have not touched an animal-based food in over half a century. I've raised 4 children, now my children raising 8 grandchildren, never touched an animal food and never are sick, and they flourish. And none of us age the way the rest of it. And we don't have the problems people have. A little added science on that one is every time a study is conducted anywhere at a university in the world where they compare plant-based diets to animal diets, the plant-based diets hand down win. And they say less heart disease, less cancer, less diabetes. The list just mounts. I have an inverted pyramid, a pyramid that looks like this. And I only show this at medical conferences because the doctors there are very fragile. You have to watch with intellectuals because they think they know everything. And at the peak, the bottom there, that's upside down, is so small you can hardly see it. And that's the country that, by the way, doesn't eat animal-based foods, and they have no colon cancer. And the top, and each one getting larger and larger to the top of the upside-down pyramid, the country that eats the most animal food has the most colon cancer. So that's the second part of it. Number 3, you don't have to be a scientist to understand if I cook something, it's going to destroy a lot of the potency of it. So we also know scientifically, as caveat to that there are 3 known cancer-causing elements when you cook a food. Leukocytosis, acrylamides, and heated oil. That's a done deal. We know it contributes not only to cancer, but heart disease and diabetes. That's a done deal. We also know that the vitamins are in full tact there. Once you cook it, they're gone. The proteins are disturbed. The fats in it, every plant has fats in it, become cancer-causing and heart disease-creating. These are factual statements. And a caveat to that is this institute has been feeding people raw diets and watching hundreds of thousands of people go through the process with scientific measures. So we're looking with blood test. We're looking at the drop of cholesterol by 50 points on average within the time. We're looking at the blood cells in the immune system improving unanimously across the board. And there has never been an organization that's done clinical scientific research on humans with diet and lifestyle in the history like we have. And that's a fact. So there you have that. And the last thing that we have to understand is we are citizens of the planet Earth. Not only human citizens, but we are citizens of the Earth. And so all of these other species and the Earth we live on deserve to have respect. And if we choose to eat animals, that's very disrespectful. And it's the #1 cause for greenhouse gases and the potential demise of our species. It's how pollution happens at the highest level. Yes, cars and planes do too, but the fact is that it's your diet that #1 overwhelmingly causes most of this problem. So if you somehow are incongruent, if you think one thing and do another, There's nothing more egregious, nothing more problematic to me when somebody says, I care for the environment, I care for the future for my children, I care for the future for future generations, and you eat an animal or drink milk out of their bosoms or eat their baby eggs, their chickens, you're lying. You're incongruent. And so that's 4 reasons, and I could go on for hours, but if you don't understand that, you're not going to understand anything else I tell you.
Yes. Can clothing make us sick?
Sure. Everything I wear is, this is an organic shirt as an example. And what does that mean? This cotton was grown without pesticides, fungicides, and herbicides. This tie is organic. Now this is not organic, but it's 100% natural fiber. So it breathes. Now, most of you don't realize out there in the world today that clothing is made out of oil. The same oil that you put into your automobile. Pesticides are on that. Fungicides, herbicides, and also plastic. They're actually fiberistic plastics that excrete estrogens. And those estrogens, look at, I'm wearing this on my skin. You're wearing that on your skin. Imagine if this was polyester or nylon, like most of you are wearing today. That estrogen goes right into the bloodstream. And to give small examples to you, and I can give lots, is 92% of breast cancer is estrogenic. So how about if you're wearing a polyester bra or nylon bra? And prostate cancer is 91% estrogenic, but also is brain cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer, also is neurological disorders, Alzheimer's disease, multiple sclerosis. So these are factual statements. And the truth of the matter is, it takes for one garment, one piece of clothes, 8,000 chemicals to make one type of cloth. That's man-made. 8,000 chemicals. And what do you think that does to the environment? In my book on clothing, Killer Clothes, I actually report the disease rate with the poor people in third world countries that work in these clothing factories, how they're dying commonly at 30 and 40 years old from major diseases, because they're subjected to that. You're just slowly dying. And if I can buy organic clothing, you can buy organic clothing. I'm sure your undergarments are organic. I'm sure this is 100% cotton. Yes? So if we can do it, you can do it. You just have to have the will to do what's right and have the integrity to do what's right.
Yes, fine. What about breast implant? Because yesterday I was speaking with a girl that sits here in the campus. And she feel like she has anxiety, and he don't know pain in all the body. And yesterday I saw that he has breast implant for 10 years. Is like that.
I'm going to try to be concise because this is a passion that Anna Marie and I have. Number one, to make a social commentary. To me, it's sad that we force women to have breasts, or they have little to no value. And what's sadder to me is that women accept that notion. If a woman is secure and confident and a real woman, she doesn't think her breasts make her valuable. It's that simple. But I'm not blaming the women, I'm blaming a society on this one. I definitely blame the medical profession, because years ago when they exposed how women by the thousands and thousands were getting sick from this, they never took them off the market. They never made them illegal. They just put sodium in rather than silicone. But it's still the same estrogenic plastic that they make the false breast out of. I've just completed a 4-show series on this on my radio program, and the ending was with the top breast implant doctor who takes them out. They're called explants. They remove them, who's a lovely human being. He happens to be here in the state of Florida, but he's an Indian, Eastern Indian. And we talked about this whole thing. And anyone that would like to listen to this, you get on Hippocrates TV on our website and download all of the wonderful programming we have on there and the 4-volume series. We had 3 women on, and they talked about mental illness. One woman, very sound, has a great marriage, loves her children, was about ready to commit suicide. because she went to doctor after doctor after doctor, and they said, no, your breast implants have nothing to do with it. Within 24 hours after she removed the implant, she was perfectly fine. This is, number one, it's a sick thing to do to women. And number two, doctors who do this, it's to me a criminal act. And number three, men who want women to have plastic breasts, you're mentally sick. Love women. Love women for what they are. They're not breasts.
What sugar do in our body, and please explain what sugar means.
Okay, sugar is high density of either glucose, sucrose, dextrose, fructose, anything that is extracted in high density. Everything has sugar in it. So if I eat lettuce, it has a small amount of sugar in it. But your body is built to take very small amounts. As a matter of fact, sugar is a very important fuel for your cell. But minimal little bits, la petite, very, very small amounts. When we started 150 years ago to consume condensed sugars, it was sugar cane. In Europe, it was the sugar we got from beets. And now it was processed sugar. Only the very rich consumed that first. So your family, my family probably didn't. It would have been, you would have been the king, the queen, the princess, etc. Ironically, governments started to realize how addictive this was. And when businesses started to make food, they started to put sugar into the food so that you and your family and your children would permanently be addicted to buying that product. And governments allowed this, and governments started to subsidize. That means allow sugar to be cheap so everyone can afford it. Now, the average European child, an average American child, consumes double their weight in sugar a year. So a 45-kilo child who's 12 or 13 years old in Romania or Germany or Sweden basically is consuming 90 pounds, or 90 kilos, excuse me, of sugar a year. Now think about this. Wow. If it can rot your teeth, what does that do to your liver, your heart, your kidneys? We used to think cirrhosis of the liver was only with alcoholics. Now we realize that 1/3 are people who don't drink alcohol, and even children who large amounts of sugar cause it. But what is alcohol? It's liquid sugar. So of course, the same reason you're rotting the liver and rotting the teeth with the sugar, you're doing it, alcohol does it the same as the sugar does it. This is the most vile thing that we put, and even health foods have this in it. And this is why at Hippocrates, 4 decades ago, we took sugar out of the equation, including fruit and fruit sugar, and the juices from them, out of our diet for people who are sick. And from that point forward, we documented people were recovering at a 3 times faster rate. 1, 2, 3 times faster rate. Think about that. I don't eat any fruit. I don't eat any sugar. It's not part of my diet. The most sugar that I get is when I'm eating lettuce or salads or sprouts that have minimal amounts in it, or occasionally I'll eat a cooked food, a grain or something, that it may have a little bit in it. But the reality is you can live a healthy life. My blood sugar is stable. My mind is stable. My nervous system is stable. Because sugar is incredibly dangerous for you. And the powers that be know it, and the food industry knows it, including the health food industry knows it. And so be cautious, people.
Yes. Brian, how studies are today made? How they made the study today?
Which study? Any study?
Any study.
It's fraud. So let me tell you how it works. Universities are generally funded by big corporations, by industries. So the food industry has millions of dollars. They give to the universities, the top universities, get the most money. Why? Because people are dazzled. If you're in Europe, if you say it's from Oxford University or from Trinity, you say, oh, it's from the top university. Well, that's where these corporations invest the most money. Here at Stanford and Harvard and Princeton University. So they come in with big checkbooks, and they actually give them $20 million, sometimes more, and say, here's what we want you to prove. And they have in writing what they want them to prove. Now, science is not an exact science. This is where the lay public who are not scientists do not realize the room they have to create fraud. So if you look up the word science in any dictionary anywhere in the world, it's going to say the study of. Not the absolute, not the definitive, not God's law, not nature's law. This is a speculation at best. So if you come to me with $20 million and I'm at a big university and I need to keep the university going and I'm the dean of the school, I'm going to say thank you so much for the 20 million euros. And yes, I see what you want me to prove, and I can legitimately come out with the result you want. Now, any of you that actually think that research is done where you come to me with $20 million, I say, I'm going to use this to save the human race, to do the best thing. Well, you're in fantasy world. She tells me what she wants me to do, and I'm the whore that does it. Because that's what science has come down to today. And maybe you have a few people that die and they leave money behind, and a handful of good science is done, but mostly it's whores and prostitutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about perfumes? Perfumes.
Perfume.
Perfumes, yes.
Well, one of the most damaging things I see them do to females, besides putting plastic bosoms in and wrapping their bodies in plastic garments, is they put perfume on you. Now, if you look at the ingredients in perfume, it is frightening. I never really did that till about 10, 15 years ago. And what I saw, I was shocked and angered. I was very angry for a long time. So the resulting effect is when you get me angry, I get active. And I got really active. And I created a line here called the Become line that is edible. I went to the extreme. If you can't eat something and ingest it and be good for you, why would you put it on your skin? To be pretty? You're going to sacrifice your health? You're going to get a disease? And that's what these do. And I was naive enough back then to think that if you were very wealthy, they didn't put poison and noxious chemicals inside of these cosmetics. I was completely wrong. Very, very, obscenely expensive perfumes have formaldehyde in them. What do you think formaldehyde is? Have you ever noticed they can put part of a body or an animal in formaldehyde and it could last for 1,000 years? What do you think that does when you put it into your body and it hits your brain or it hits your nervous system? Now, anyone that would love to challenge what I'm saying now, just look this up. Just look it up. Practically every perfume, including natural perfumes and natural cosmetics, are damaging to your well-being and health. By the way, your skin will not look beautiful and radiant after a while. You're going to need real cosmetics because you're going to look like hell. It's going to give you more wrinkles, it's going to give you more disease, and you're going to get old, and you're going to probably end up with a disease from this stuff. I mean, it's like tampons for women. If you look, there's 50 different chemicals in a tampon that you expect a woman to put inside of herself. Who allows that? Well, you think governments around the world are protecting you. This is insanity. Nobody's protecting you. Corporations are out of control. They're controlling the world. They're running everything. And you are a victim. You're a slave of purchasing disease-causing products from them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. What about food combining? Because here we get the education, but I see the nutrition that are very, very well educated, but they don't. It's not important the food combining.
Yeah. Well, it comes from the idea where my mom used to say, eat a lot, eat a wide variety, the more you have, the better it is. So people are still in that, even if they're into health. Now, the simple way to explain this is look at every creature that's strong and muscular and powerful and much more power than you and I. They eat one food at a time. So look at a horse and the beauty of the body of the horse. I mean, the horse is a phenomenon. Little skinny legs and can run so fast with this big, giant, muscular body. That shouldn't happen. The aerodynamics really shouldn't let that happen. They eat only one food to get that. And by the way, you say, well, I'm not a horse. No, you're not as strong, you're not as big, you don't need as much as a horse. But they do this on one food. A steer, a bull, a gorilla, they're eating one food at a time. So we come up, of course, with the biblical ideology that we control the world, that we dominate the world. This is all nonsense and elitist crap, that humans enslave and take over animals. No, we're part of that. We are an animal. We're part of that whole ecosystem. And why do we think that we need all of these different things and we need to combine them together when these more powerful and frankly to me more intelligent, more sympathetic, more empathetic creatures, more compassionate creatures are doing it that way? Well, so we should be eating more monolithically. Now I'm not saying eat one piece of lettuce. Anything green goes together, okay? But it doesn't go together with fruit. Why? Well, common sense prevails. A fruit rushes through the body rapidly. I eat a fruit, I'm standing in a queue to go into the bathroom right away because it's a lot of water to go through my body. With a salad, it may take 2 to 3 times longer to go through my body than the fruit. So you don't want something that's going slow, methodically, and something fast hitting it, because then when it collides, there's a different chemistry. Now, to make this overly simple, if you take, for instance, all of those things I said and put them into a container and put some water in and let them sit there, you'll see them percolate. Within 24 hours, you're going to see them fermenting. It's going to start to smell within 48 hours, and you're going to put it out of your kitchen. What do you think it does in your body? It doesn't take 24 to 48 hours. It takes 2-3 hours, and you're now fermenting the food inside of your body. So our ancestors were monolithic. They ate one type of food at a time, and they were much stronger, much healthier, and I actually challenge if they weren't more intelligent than we are. Just because we can do some dazzling things and do shiny object stuff doesn't mean we're smarter. We also have buttons, we can bomb one another and kill one another. We also put plastic into people's bodies. I mean, it goes on. So there is a school of thought that's thoughtless, that talks about when you destroy the nutrient factor of food and it's cooked, that these chemistries somehow magically morph and change into something else. You don't change something if you denature it. It's still the same chemistry. So the high acidity, high fluidity content of a fruit is not going to change. You may take away, you will take away the nutrient factor, the enzymatic factor, the phytochemical factor, all the things that are a benefit of fruit, but you're not going to change the chemistry. So a fruit chemistry doesn't go well together with a vegetable chemistry. Or a nut chemistry, much more dense, much more condensed, takes longer to process through digestion than a grain chemistry. Matter of fact, one takes 4 hours, the other takes 2 hours. Cooking it or not cooking it, it's not going to be good together for you. And people say, well, I don't feel anything. Well, that's even more problematic, because that means you probably have some type of a covering in your intestinal tract. I never felt anything. I would eat nonsense together constantly, never felt it. Once I got clean and I tried to cheat on food combining, I felt it. I felt it immediately. So healthy people get this. Unhealthy people don't get it. But unhealthy people don't get a lot of things, including what we're talking about now, being so sensible.
Brian, how much, what percent of a healthy store it's really healthy? When I go in the
Well, I mean, it's hard to say. There's a big variety of health stores. Some health stores are supplement stores. Some health stores are natural food stores. Now, if you go to a natural food store, what is healthy there, without fail, is the produce section, providing it's organic, biological, ecological food, and the bulk grains, nuts, seeds, and beans section. So that we know is healthy, providing they're ecological. So beyond that, it's hard to say. Are there some supplements in health stores that may be food-based and organic and clean? Yes, but the vast majority are never that, I can tell you. Are there plant-based organic protein powders there? Yes, but very few. And the quality is generally not the highest level of quality. So I'm not suggesting we should never visit a health store, but they're not a whole lot better than supermarkets for your overall well-being.
Yes. What about green juice, Brian?
Well, green juice is something we invented back in the 1970s when we realized that we wanted to get maximum amounts of chlorophyll into people. Now, part of this was our ignorance. We didn't realize what else was in the green juice at that point. But by that chance we took, it became popular. Now, green juice is probably the most popular juice on the planet Earth, but the one that we created is 50% sprouts. And the difference between juice made out of a green leafy vegetable and a sprout is like night and day, because the power locked into the sprout of nutrition, but more important, medicine, the medicinal part of it, is 40, 60, 70, 80 times more. So now the problem with all juicing, as good as they are, because I can take 2 kilos of food, I could never eat that, and make a large, several milliliter cup of juice, if I sit it for 10, 15 minutes, it's not going to be that good for me. So if we're friends, I want you to make the juice and I get underneath it and drink it immediately. I don't even want to put it in a cup and sit it. But what I'm saying is quickly drink it rapidly.
Yes, it's very important. Why health is the greatest human blessing?
Health should be, everything we do ultimately should be to be healthy. The work you do should make you happy. That's healthy. The relationships we have should make you happy. That's healthy. If they're not making you happy, if your work's not making you happy, if your love life is not making you happy, you're bound to get sick. And when you are not happy in the things you do most of the time, remember, either we're working or we're at home with our family. What else do we do? How often do we go on holidays? So most of us spend 90 to 95% of our time in that. If you're not happy in that, you'll find ways to sabotage yourself. When I was young and trying to find myself, I would eat the worst, they weren't even foods, the worst things you could. And I got fat and I got out of shape. And the more unhappy you are, the more unhappy things you eat. You tend to want junk food, you tend to want sugar, you tend to want potato chips, you tend to want, worse than that, alcohol, sodas. You tend to want these things because you're reflecting how you feel emotionally with your choices. A good friend of mine, a psychologist, said to me one time, "You have a much easier job than me." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I have to talk in circles." He said, "All you have to do is observe what people are eating to see how they feel about themselves." And boy, he taught me something that I'll never forget. That was 30 years ago. And at first I resisted what he said. I realized it's true. So we don't have a struggle with the taste of food. We have a struggle with the taste of ourselves. How much do we like or dislike ourselves? How much do we respect or not? How much do we love ourselves in life or not love ourselves in life? This is the real struggle. This is the human struggle today. And when you are vulnerable and in discord, you're insecure in some way, you are very easy to lead. That's why humanity is being led today like I've never seen humanity led before. Because you're looking to be part of something because you're not anything. You don't feel anything. You don't feel complete. You don't feel whole. You don't feel happy. You don't feel fulfilled. And what are you giving? Nothing but trouble. That's it.
Brian, do you think that sick people, they need to have a purpose?
Sure. A man came to my office the other day. He was diagnosed with a deadly cancer, one of the worst cancers I've seen numbers of people recover from. And he said to me, "I'm not sure I'm going to get well." I said, "You're not going to get well." And he said, "Well, I came here to get well." I said, "Well, I'm telling you right now as a director, you're not going to get well." And he said, "Well, what do you mean?" "You're supposed to tell me I'm going to get well." I said, "I'm not going to lie to you." I said, "Because you have no reason to be here." I said, "You have all the money you want in the world. You don't know who you are. You don't know what you're doing. You don't have any relationships with anyone. You're lost. You're confused. You don't know how to be happy in any way." I said, "So no matter how much good food I feed you, ultimately you're going to die." So that day I said to him, "In 1 hour, I want you to come on a piece of paper and tell me why you're on the planet Earth." And I saw him an hour later and he didn't have it. I said, where's the paper? I said, you're struggling with why you're here? And you're asking me if I could heal you? I said, until you give me that paper, you can't heal yourself. And he came back with the paper and he said, I want to find a mate. I said, the only way you're going to find a mate is to find yourself. We attract to us who we are. So if you're struggling with relationships, you're pulling into your sphere who you are. So the universe, God, if you will, always brings us the mirror. And we see the mirror and we become either concerned with what we're seeing or we learn to raise ourselves. So the mirror now reflects something different about ourselves. So we've got to create a strength, a persona, a clarity, a purpose in life. If you don't have a purpose in life, that's the most important mission we have as human beings. That's what God intends us to have a purposeful, passionate pursuit.
Oh, yes. How much stress we have today, how much stress. We don't live like our ancestors.
You've heard me say this, but a colleague of mine told us that we have 15,000 times, 15,000 times more stress than we had a century ago. Now, it's not hard to understand when you realize we have cell phones and computers and television sets and the list, and I'm driving in the car at 90 miles an hour. You know, even I do that. All this crazy stuff is going. You're on airplanes going 700 miles an hour. 100 years ago, none of that happened. You knew what was happening in your family, maybe in your village or your community in town, and that was it. And life was quiet. Life was calm. And you had to relate with yourself. And who you were at that point is your actions. What's ironic and amazing today, the biggest liars become the most successful. You couldn't have done that 100 years ago. 100 years ago, you would have been out of there in 1 minute. People would have figured you out in 1 minute. Because our exchange, our currency then, was communication. Today, our currency is illusion. So everything's make-believe. The fastest growing economics that have ever happened in the history of human is Bitcoin. It has nothing to do with reality at all. Zero. And it's the fastest growing money in the history of man. The people who make money today are not the people who work to make products, but the middlemen on Wall Street who sell the image of your product, the illusion of your product. So it's, as the Chinese said it so well, it's a paper tagger. So the world is not stable. We're not standing here and solid and with clarity and strength. So no wonder people are like this today. And people are searching for 34% of young people below 40, when they were asked what they aspired to be, it was personalities on the internet. What is that? That's not a job. So 1/3 of young people, what they want to be is become rich and famous on the internet. Why? Because they see people who do nothing become rich and famous on the internet. So the currency has to go back to authentic communication. When I speak to you, love, I know what you're telling me is the truth. I don't think that with many people, by the way. I have to filter through the nonsense with people. You're authentic. But why you're authentic is that you had to crash and burn to rebuild yourself. And so some of the most authentic people I know in my life, and I thank God never had to do that, are people who had to crash and burn. And they just learned to find the right glue and learned to pick up the pieces and learned to reconstruct a life of dignity, a life of integrity, a life of truth, and live for something. Live for something that's much more important than comfort. I love being uncomfortable more than I like being comfortable. I have all the comfort I need, but give me a challenge. Don't give me a bed.
Yes, wow, thank you, Brian. Brian, what about sun? Because many people, they think that the sun is not good for us.
We would all die without the sun. It's unbelievable. Can you imagine that the healthcare profession has convinced us the sun is your enemy? Now, how weak people are, which I just spoke, this sense of insecurity, is reflected in the fact that we think the sun is our enemy. Now, the truth of the matter is, if you're in the sun all of the time, you're going to have more wrinkles. But healthy people are not going to get cancer from the sun. Most of you out there will, because you're filled with animal fats, you're filled with deadly chemicals, you're wearing polyester underwear. You will, because all of those chemicals and animal fats will come out on the surface of your skin, the sun will rain down, and those chemicals and fats will burn and mutate your cells. That's where cancer comes from. You don't see indigenous tribes, Indians, who are out in the sun all the time, not me. They're out there 20 hours a day in the sun. They're sleeping outside in the sun. They don't have skin cancer. Why? They're eating plant-based diet. They're exercising like fiends. Not because they exercise. Oh, let's go to exercise. Their life is exercise. So let's start to wake up, people. Let's not listen to the scientists, naysayers who come out of the universities who are being sponsored and supported by evil corporations who basically mold your minds because you're insecure and you think they're smarter than you, so they must know more than you. Let's look at what's really happening. So if you blow the smoke out of the room and ask the question, how come I'm getting cancer in Europe or in North America and the Indians or the Africans aren't getting cancer? Well, what the hell is the difference between the way the Indians and Africans live and you? That's the question. Do you see them wearing polyester bras? I mean, but people, common sense is not around anymore. I mean, when I find somebody with common sense, it's like surprising to me now at this point.
Well, yes, Brian, what do you think about grounding?
Grounding is phenomenal. Remember, we didn't have to call it grounding 2 centuries ago. If you were lucky enough to have shoes, and most of our families probably didn't have shoes, you were walking with bare feet even in the middle of winter. Why? People were hardy. People were hardy. Then they put leather on it, you still ground it. Not to say I'm a big fan of leather shoes, but the truth is you were still touching the earth with that. All at once, the last 100 years, they put rubber, they put synthetic plastics on it. Now you're not touching the earth. In our buildings, they're no longer wooden floors, they're cement. They're different synthetics they're putting on the floor. You're not touching the earth. So for the entirety of the human race until the last century or so, and more so the last 50 years, we have been grounded. And there is an electromagnetic current, that magnetic field is what I should say, that's within the earth itself and allows the earth to interrelate with all the magnetism of the planets, the stars, the universe, the multiple universes. So how the earth moves on its axis is that. That's a very subtle but powerful field. And that's the same field that your cells have, healthy cells have. So when you're touching the earth, you are actually grounded. You are part of the earth itself. We call it Mother Earth. It's like the umbilical cord. You with the umbilical cord into the mother. With all of the nonsense, including what I'm wearing today, rubber soles, I'm not touching the earth. So Father Kneip, a German doctor in the mid-1800s, started to realize what was just beginning then. And he was awake enough to say, wait a minute, let's walk in the morning on the dew on the grass. Let's take the brook or the stream and with bare feet walk on the round rocks. He was doing reflexology. And the Kneip therapies are still used globally and have scientific data to back it. And now we have to, with our electronic age, get grounding pads if you're sitting in front of a computer. And all of that's helpful because we are living in cities and we are living in plastic floors and we're not close to the earth itself. So this is important to think about.
Brian, I can stay here with you all day and I can not have enough. You have so much knowledge and experience. I think that I'm sure that Hippocrates Health Institute is the best place that when you can clean your body and your mind, but for the people that they can get to the institute. We want to create online program for the people from Romania.
Right.
And I am very happy about that because many people, they want to get here, but now with the visa, with the COVID, it's not so easy to get here. And I can be the support for the people. And in 2 or 3 months, I want to, with you, to launch a program, online program with you, with Anna Maria, with me. I will be there live with the people. They can ask me questions. And with other professionals in this field of natural healing. What do you think about this?
I think it's great. I think we have an online program. First, we should start with what works, what is good, what has been, and translate that into Romanian. And then if like we're doing now, I'd be more than happy. I've been to your country of Romania. We've been received well there. I love Romania. Remember my grandmother, one grandmother was Hungarian, so we have a lot of bloodlines that are the same. And we're all for that because my objective is not to increase the sales, but to increase the knowledge out in the world. And whatever it takes to do that, I'm on your side.
I think the people need more tools because the people cannot change their life with a video to interview.
No.
They need more tools. And I feel for me, the online program, I am in the online program, it was that empowered me to have this lifestyle, to have the healthy
And then you
lifestyle.
came here after the online program.
Yes, but the online program was for me.
And when the world, which it will change, we'll be more than happy to come back to Romania if we have and do that. Sure, we do it. That's it. But you know, I'm enlisting soldiers in the army of love. You know, you're there. You're becoming a colonel, and we may make you a general soon. And this is an army that has to do with taking darkness away with light, taking lies and deception down with truth, taking hate away with love. And all of this is something that always works. You just have to have people, army soldiers of love that are strong enough and willing enough to do what it takes to let that happen. And my whole life I've been blessed to be able to do that and to watch. When you get people to understand that they have their own power, that they have their own mechanism to heal, that the universe and God's always at their side, they're unstoppable. But if you're a victim of the situation, the circumstance that corporations and governments want you to believe, you're never, ever going to live a life of freedom, a life of happiness, a life of joy and health.
Yes, thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Nice to be with you.
Nice to be with you.